Welcome back to episode 3 of Champs Chats here at the World Athletics Championships. I'm Chris Chavez, joined by Kyle Merber, Jasmine Todd, Caitlin Hutchison, and Champs Chats is presented by Tracksmith Running. They are an independent running brand based out of New England that just kind of pushes storytelling around the track, the roads, the amateur athlete. They really embrace it. They've been big supporters of us over the years. We worked with them at the Olympic trials last year, and we're really happy to be working with them this time around in getting you guys these podcasts, these shows on YouTube, our daily newsletter, and a special offer that they've put out for CITIUS MAG podcast listeners is if you use promo code WORLDS at checkout, that's 20% off any of your orders. So you could be a first-time customer, a loyal customer, returning customer, whatever it is. Use promo code WORLDS for 20% off. They're also working really closely with Malcolm Gladwell on his new Legacy of Speed podcast, which tells the story of the 1960s San Jose State track team that put together a big statement at the Mexico City Olympics. And I've listened to the first couple episodes. There's going to be a live recording in a couple days here in Eugene that I'm looking forward to. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts. So many thanks to Tracksmith for supporting us. You can see that we're all wearing...
It's a coincidence.
Yeah, this is pure coincidence. Are all wearing the same green top that you can get for yourself and 20% off. Remember, promo code Tracksmith at Tracksmith.com. Promo code WORLDS at Tracksmith.com. My brain is melting slowly but surely.
All right, this should be an interesting podcast then.
Yeah.
You have 7 more days to get through, Chris. Let's go.
All right,
7 more
Caitlin.
days.
Give us the day 3 vibe check of Hayward Field.
The vibe check was through the roof. I swear to God, I have never had so much fun at a track meet. It was off the chain. I think Jasmine even said, like, this past day or past 2 days, best organ clap she's seen for the field events. Even RG3 talked to me, and he said that the vibe checks were through the roof, especially after seeing Jamaican do the 1-2-3 sweep, in the 100. So you just had to be there. So if anybody goes on Twitter talking about nobody was in the stands, that's a damn lie.
Yeah, I find that those tweets about like the photos of the stands like really just oddly timed. It's like sometimes like you can get an angle where there's a couple people missing, and it might be because they're in between events. But for moments like the women's 100, and even before that, there's you look around and it's really hard to find any seat sometimes.
Yeah, I mean the morning sessions, maybe the first.
Those are tough.
But now the evening sessions, the last 2 days have been unbelievably packed, hectic, fun. Exactly why they built the stadium.
So before we even get to the action that took place inside Hayward Field, day 3 started really early, 6:15 in the morning with the men's marathon. The two of you slept through it. That's
As you can see
okay.
with our blankets.
Kyle and I were going to go out for some of it, and instead we were just like, you know what? It's a ways out there, so let's watch this one from TV. And it honestly... we have a couple of regrets because it ended up being a pretty thrilling race in those final couple miles, and it was a criterion course.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is maybe a hot take, unpopular opinion. I prefer watching marathons on TV.
I think I do too.
Even in like New York, going to New York City Marathon, which I've done plenty of times, I generally like watching it on TV, at least for, the first 20 miles and then running out and seeing the finish. And, watching the final miles of a marathon is a very emotional thing for a lot of athletes. But, I like hearing what's going on.
You watch the pros, and then you pop out when your friends are running. That's kind of like the ideal way of watching a marathon.
That's maybe a lot of people would disagree with that. But
really?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I like to watch it.
No, I mean watch the pros on TV, and then you pop out when your friends are coming by.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
But
today, the weather's been good in the mornings, which is a concern, obviously, for a marathon that's being run in the middle of July, and Eugene can get hot, but it wasn't too bad. And because of that, we saw really fast times. We saw a championship record from Tamarit Tola from Ethiopia, who came out and just blasted it. I mean, you're in 2:05:36.
Took over a minute off of the previous marathon world championship record.
Yeah, so, clear. It is a very flat course. Like, there's a few inclines, But for the most part, we don't need to make any excuses for 2:05. Like, it's a blazing fast time, world championship record, and the Ethiopian fans going 1-2, like, that was the highlight of the day. Seeing those emotions and the amount that they were celebrating. The storyline maybe that we should get into before the race even started was that we had an athlete who was supposed to be in contention that ended up, getting popped a couple days beforehand. And then, Lawrence Trono was unable to run.
Yeah.
And so one of the heavy favorites was out. And so that did kind of open it up for the Ethiopians.
Yeah, the Lawrence Trono case is fascinating because I guess it was an out-of-competition test that he tested positive for a banned substance. I forget exactly which one it was. But regardless, they didn't tell him until he got to Eugene, which is a little cutthroat.
If you already knew, you can tell him.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, that's a major contender. But I mean, that's if you look at the names that were at the top of this, like Tamarat Tola, Bashir Abdi. Let's see, you got them pulled up, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can jump into Cam Levins, which we can talk
That's
a
the
little
shocker.
bit more. But Jeffrey Kamworor was 5th place. So, I mean, there's studs up there. And so for Tola, who's, been here in this position before, to get there, you had to beat Mosnet Guramu, who's the 6th fastest marathoner of all time.
Yeah, and it's, kind of this gives us a little bit of an idea of maybe what to expect tomorrow for the women's marathon because it is a flat course, it did go fast. And so that's obviously going to benefit some of the women that come into this with sub 220 personal best because looking at that top 5, a lot of those guys have broken 204, they're 205. And so the outlier in all of that is Cam Levins, who ends up having a phenomenal day.
Yeah, 2-minute personal best to set he already had the national Canadian record, but
That's
now it's funny talking to Mohamed after his race in the 10K, which we can dive into more, but he was really pumped. But in my head the whole time, I'm thinking, like, that's going to be 2 minutes now that you need to go chase one day.
Yeah.
And, Canadians, he was saying for them, this was a gold medal performance. And I think for a lot of us in the U.S. who've watched Cam competing since his Southern Utah days, we've seen the ups and downs that he's had to getting here. We remember the flow track videos of him training in the middle of the night with the lamp on his head.
Yeah.
Being followed by the cars, headlights, and
in the snow. And that's what the interesting part about that, Cam Levins, before he went on and spent some time with the Oregon Project, was that he was running 130 miles a week, and this is before he had even jumped up to the marathon. And apparently, I saw a couple tweets about it. He was getting up to 170-ish miles a week. Like, Caitlin, that's got to blow your mind. 170 miles in a week.
Almost
In 1 week.
200 miles in 1 week.
That's accurate.
Yeah,
that's
How
good
you not-
analysis.
Yeah.
Hey, how you don't pass out and just die? Like, it's not clicking.
That's almost me driving to Arizona.
Yeah.
So he was
Like,
running to
that's halfway.
Arizona.
That's halfway. That's about getting to Yuma.
It's impressive, but that's what worked for Cam for during college, and then it kind of went away. He still had found some speed and set a couple Canadian records while he was with the Oregon Project, but then after that it was this odd transitional period. He had the flash of greatness again in 2019 when he ran that Canadian record, and then again it's been up and down. And then this is finally last year. I think we started to see that this is the Cam Levins that people remember.
Yeah. Well, currently unsponsored as well,
Mhm.
and so you don't have to tug on my heartstrings to make me put for like an unsponsored guy at the World Championships to come up. Of course, he would have loved a medal, but I think this was still a really emotional day for him and everyone in his corner. So, the two guys that were ahead of him have Olympic bronze medals. So, now he's mixing it up. And the World Championship Marathon is a really interesting race in general because these athletes, all the marathoners in the world have to make a decision. Do I want to go and represent my country for no money or, the opportunity to maybe win some money? Or do I want to go run one of the big marathons that are going to give me an automatic appearance fee and have a lot of prize money potential? And so I think for an unsponsored athlete to say, like, I want to come and represent my country, I think that he's going to have good financial opportunities because of it, but also just for Tamaratola and for Mosenet Garameru, like for them to come here and decide that they wanted Ethiopia to go 1-2 in the World Champs again. Like, shout out to them. Very emotional day.
Yeah, there's a photo that we shared on our Twitter page by Justin Britton where he was kind of just at the award ceremony. He just captured some of the coaches or staff from the Ethiopian team, just eyes just full of tears, and it's really cool because I mean, like, at the end of the day, kind of like you said, the fast times, the prize money, the world major titles are great, but this is for your country for hardware that it can't be taken away. So the men's marathon kind of gets us excited for us to not sleep in a little bit tomorrow and actually get out there and watch the women's race, which the way things went, you have to kind of factor that.
That helps our team. Our team
does.
likes it fast.
Someone like Kira D'Amato, Sarah Hall, and Emma Bates, like, they like a fast race. We saw them thrive in Chicago last year, and that's a fast world major where, typically the East Africans are the ones up pushing the pace in the front, and if that's how it's going to happen tomorrow, I want to bring up the home field advantage. Like, I'm sure, I think it might have been Ian Dobson helped, create this course that they're running on, or he played some role. You got to think that, like, you got to tell the Americans what to expect on this course.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that you and I need to get out there tomorrow and get one of those bikes.
Yeah.
Flat course. You don't have to pedal up any hills, but something that was really cool today was the fans being able to bike. I don't know if that was a planned, organized thing, but we had, the cyclists riding along, and especially the Ethiopians at the end, like those
they were
miles
keeping
too,
up.
like the Ethiopian fans were on foot running, sub 440 miles with them at the end, just cheering them on. So good day.
Great start to the day.
Yeah.
And then the morning session, as we now transition back into Hayward Field, a lot of heptathlon action taking place, but there was one track final that took place, and that was the men's 10,000, which, like, I guess I got called out on Twitter because
What'd you do?
this race led to another thrilling finish, and so I had a hit of a tweet the first day that was like, if people say that the 10,000 is a boring event,
Oh yeah, you did
then
get called out here.
show them this clip, and it was the women's finish. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna say the same exact thing about this men's clip. And then one of the greatest of all time, the guy who should be the commissioner of track and field, Michael Johnson, just quote tweets me and says, this clip you shared, like, you left out the other 27 minutes that were boring. And I didn't respond. And Kyle, you always say that's one of my biggest strengths.
Yeah,
is
Chris,
that
if you chirp at Chris, he will completely ignore you.
I
So
just-
it's a very unsatisfying thing.
Yeah, but it
When
wasn't
people
that.
come at you online, they don't get the reaction that
No.
they want. And I don't think Michael was coming at you.
No, he wasn't. He was just. It was.
directly, but
It was
just
funny.
for something people to know.
Yeah.
Like, you do not take bait.
And it was funny though, because then it led to a good amount of responses from there, and I thought that my response would have been like, no, it's still a boring race, but it was kind of the flip side. I think Michael got more responses that were a little bit harsh on him, where it's like Dez's response was pretty savage. Can you pull it up, Kyle? Like on Twitter, where he says I left out the boring parts, and then Dez says to him, "Is like, I want to get this right."
Oh, man. All right. Hopefully, Michael doesn't have too many tweets from today, 'cause I'm going to be scrolling down. All right. He says,
Well, it's after this. He quote tweeted me.
quote tweeted you.
Right
The
there.
15 and he said the 15 to 20 second part you showed isn't boring at all, but you didn't address the other 20 minutes just saying. And
With
then,
an emoji. So I knew it was
Yeah,
like
he's friendly.
playful.
and then Des said, "Oh, come on, the other 27 minutes of strategy, team dynamics, and actual racing, far greater than watching lane by lane intros, setting blocks, and false start replays. No, I bet you like short stories." Winky face.
It's all in good fun. It's all in good fun.
Woo,
Now,
got on him.
Mac's been able to pull up the tweet. That's a hot dog. Oh, it's got race
Oh.
footage, so we can't show it on the screen. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
But okay, so the way this race played out, it's like a a drum beat. It was getting faster and faster. And then the crescendo really happens.
I always say the crescendo in the 10K. It's a building, you know. They start like the drums like dum bum bum.
It's like the clap.
Bum 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 bum. You know,
Not the organ clap though.
it is like the clap, but more like on the drums. And the whole time that we're watching it, I'm just thinking, this is Grant's race. Like, this is how Grant likes to run. Just turn the screw.
The first thing you pointed out to me was that when Grant was up towards the front of the race.
Very beginning, the Americans shot to the lead.
Yep. So for 200 meters, it was Team America's race. But it kind of reminded me of 2012 Olympics in London when Don Cabral and Evan Jager led from the front. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, America.
They planned this.
But this time around, what you watched carefully and would have noticed was that Joshua Cheptegei, the world record holder, is not letting Grant get away. He was sitting right behind him.
Yeah, I think that is a sign of respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that Grant, you know, he ran 26:33. He was 5th at the Olympics last year. And now I think the East Africans are aware of him and they know that he is a threat. And I said to him afterwards in the mix zone, I was like, if I told you before the race that you were going to outkick the defending Olympic champion, you probably would think that you would have gotten a medal, right? And those are the guys he is now in contention with. So, you know, just got right ahead of Selman Barega, but couldn't match Joshua Cheptegei, who, you know, was just too good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, it's a 4th place finish that I don't think you can. Visibly, he looked disappointed. I think everyone else around him was like, no, it's an improvement upon last year. 5th last year, 4th this year. You're knocking on the door, but coming in, he was the world leading, had the world leading time, and I you know, you towards the end of the race, you pointed out that the Kenyan stars that were in this race, we hadn't heard too much about. You heard about Cheptegei, you heard about the Ethiopians, but it was Kenya. It's a really young Kenyan team, and one of them ends up snagging a medal.
Yeah, so Stanley Maburu, you know, was a great junior. He was a 2-time junior medalist, but the Kenyans have a really young team, relatively inexperienced on the world stage. That doesn't mean that they're not immediately going to come in here and perform. But this is, you know, it's like, oh, a name to watch. It's like, oh, he's already a silver medalist at the World Championships. Like, not just a name to watch in the future. We're currently watching him. But he broke up the Ugandan. So, you know, Kiplimo, who is an Olympic medalist himself, one of the best runners in the world, young runners, now slowly becoming an experienced runner. Good run for Uganda, 1-3. I am, of course, Team America #1. But I just really have loved the Ugandan arc here, and the fact that they have come in and said, for a long time it's been Kenya and Ethiopia. Well, here we are.
Yeah, no, we did a whole episode of Track Snacks about that, so people can go back and listen to that one on Joshua Cheptegei, because he's really uplifted the rest of the people from his country to aspire for some of those medals. And, you know, it's really early to start thinking about how we could look at a final like this 10, 15 years down the road, because, you know, in the same way a guy that young is like Eliud Kipchoge probably at the 2003 Paris World Championships, where he ends up on the podium, and now we talk about that as like a big breakthrough. So you just never know, and it's always cool to, when a new name pops up, you're invested for a couple years, and then you just want to kind of continue to see that unfold. So it was a great final.
To round out the Americans, 9th place was Joe Klecker, which I think he had said he's not disappointed with it. I think he saw a world in which maybe he could do a little bit better, but, you know, when you finish top 10 in the world, it's hard to be too disappointed. I was joking after. I think top 8 get health insurance. Right? Jasmine, do you know about this? I think it's top 8 get health insurance, and so that's always the spot that I look at for the USA guys. It's like, especially once you turn 25, 26, you want to make sure you're on
really
that
want
plan.
that health insurance.
Yeah, and it's good. It's a good plan. And then Sean McGorty finished in 12th place. So, you know, all top half of the field, solid stuff. And, you know, we're going to be seeing Grant again in the 5K.
Yeah. All right. One other thing to point out from the morning session before we transition to the evening part of competition is that in the women's hammer throw, we added another gold medal, and there's been this discussion about the possible U.S. women's throws sweep. Actually, now it's not. Oh yeah, no, it's still alive. Brooke Anderson adds her part to it by winning the women's hammer throw with a 78.96 throw. Cameron Rogers takes silver. Possible Bowerman
Do you want
Award
to talk
winner.
about that, or have you
No,
said
because
there's enough of
apparently,
this?
I repeated myself on the second day of the last
Oh,
podcast.
that's right. I scolded
so
you for that.
I did get scolded.
And then Janae Casanavoid, right? Am I mispronouncing that?
Yes, I think that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So 74.86 for bronze. So USA goes. It's a North America
How
medal
amazing
sweep.
is this
Yeah.
though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You guys watched it, right?
Yeah, we did get to watch that, and just the simple fact of America coming out with 2 medals in the hammer throw.
Without Deanna Price, who was
Without
supposed to be here,
Deanna
but
Price.
was a late scratch due to COVID. And so, yeah, Americans in the hammer throw, what's going on?
I think later we'll kind of talk about it, but Joe kind of said it best today, where he told Caitlin that the U.S. is the best throws country, and I think we're starting to see that. We've come up in the throws, and these 2 ladies did an amazing job today.
I kind of am really happy that last summer, what started off as like a little just joke at first on the podcast of us
It was
being
not a joke. We were very serious.
yeah, being big throws guys, like.
Yeah.
Hey, like we were early on the bandwagon, and now like we're still welcoming more people to jump on it.
Jump on. Well, I think the idea for us kind of like making that what was at one point a quip but now very serious is just the idea that being distance fans, we get so enclosed in our own world at times, and then when you see especially American athletes being as successful as they are in other events, it's hard not to want to get excited about that, but also in doing so you have to educate yourself about the events. And I'd say our general knowledge when it comes to the throwing events versus a year ago or so at the Olympic trials, we've really been putting the work in.
Yeah, well, you saw in the mix zone today, like Tom Walsh was like walking through, and he sees me, he gives me a fist bump. To be clear, he gave me the fist bump.
Yeah, those are
And
the
then-
rules.
Those are the rules. And I said to him, I was like, you'll get him next time. And it was because, he told me, and you were like, how do you know him?
Yeah, I
And
was
how
like,
and how
what-
does he know you?
what's the
And I was
deal
like,
here?
oh, pre-classic. Like, Mac and I just stood by the shot put ring, and we were just getting educated at that point. And it's sort of like there is an appreciation, at least from the throwers, that's like, oh, you guys care? And I was like, yeah, we care, and we want more people to care. So then we got to hang out with Nick Ponzio as well, who, we're trying to get some of these guys to come over to the house tomorrow, which, quick plug right now for tomorrow's CITIUS MAG live show. If all the guests who have said that they have expressed interest in coming through tomorrow, we're going to break out some bling.
Yeah.
Because,
We have
there's
a lot of medals in the backyard.
there's discussion of Mr. Joe Kovacs coming through, Josh Awatunde, and who else was it? The one and only Grant Holloway. We've got a lot of wine ready for him, and so
We're ready.
tomorrow, I think we, just because of all these guests, we're gonna move the show up a bit just to accommodate a couple people's schedules. So the plan right now, if you're listening to this ahead of tomorrow afternoon, we might be going live at 1 p.m. Pacific time, just to be able to, cushion enough time for
We have a
some
lot
other
of people.
interviews, including one big interview that we can't really talk about right now.
Well,
It's
so
under wraps.
This is a good transition because something that's really fun, and Tom in the mix zone saying that he likes that we're covering the sport in the way that we are.
Yeah, same with Ponzio. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get talking to the athletes, and you can kind of tell like who's really into the sport. And I guess this is my transition to the women's pole vault.
Good.
So Katie Nageotte, I can never say her name.
Nageotte, right?
Nageotte.
Yeah.
Nageotte. Sorry, Katie. That's a me problem. So I saw Katie, and she was so fired up about track and field, and there was it was a special moment today at the World Championships, and it reminded me of in London when they had Mo Farah. Was it?
Yeah, it was Mo
Jessica?
Farah, Greg Rutherford, and Jessica Ennis.
And all in like the span of like 20 minutes, they all won. And
Today was like a span of 15 minutes.
today, we
crazy.
had so many medals happening at one time, and we'll dive into it even more. But so Katie was sitting there looking around, kind of in awe, and like she's a fan of the sport, and she let me know that she definitely, tunes in, I think, and listens to some of our podcasts and some of the stuff that we do. And she was saying, like, she was fired up about Grant's performance this morning in the 10K. And I just think it's so cool that the Olympic champion and the pole vault and now the world champion is cheering on her teammates in such a real way. But this was a huge win for her. And I know that from the outside looking in, an Olympic champion comes back and wins the world championships, like expected. But definitely not expected. Jasmine, you are shaking your head because you know what she went through. You know what this is like.
Sitting there, I mean, honestly, I wasn't super close to the pole vault, but I was watching the results on the screen. And as I was watching those results on the screen, I'm looking at Katie, and she's in like third. I think at first she was in fourth, to be honest. And then I'm like, all right, Katie, we got to get you up there. We got to get you up there. We got to get you up there. And then she clears this bar. She's slowly moving up. I looked away because there was so much action going on the track. And the next thing I know, we're in 1-2. And I'm just like, this is absolutely insane. That's when I started really getting tuned in. And the fact that Katie came off of this, like, it was kind of a freakishly odd way to come out with a gold medal of Sandi just so happened to miss a bar. So she comes out with the gold, Sandi comes out with silver, and amazing.
Sandy's fourth silver, which is like, it's so hard, but at the same time, like her and Katie have just been 1-2 all throughout the season. And this is the moment that Katie gets it right and it ends up being the gold medalist.
Both world leads clearing 4.85, and Sandi joined Coach Brad Walker. Now training, right? That's
yeah.
Yes, she just joined over there, and I mean, one, how awesome for their coach, but
to have 1-2 in the world, pretty good coaching.
How do you work with that? Like, as a coach, you've got to sit here and you're going back and forth, having your own athletes compete against each other in this moment.
Yeah, no. So I'd spoken to Sandi earlier in the year about it, and it sounds like at practice, oftentimes when they're vaulting, they do separate and they break up into little groups so they can have that one-on-one attention. And you definitely have to compartmentalize a little bit. But they were so pumped for each other, and it just Katie's been struggling with injuries all year
And COVID,
and just hadn't been performing the way that she wanted. And after the Olympics, it's you really take an emotional dip, and to work her way back, get there. I know she had to cut her runway really short and wasn't able to get nearly as much speed as she normally would and still pull it out. And if she was saying if she can do 4.85 doing what she was doing today, then the second she's at full health and able to sprint all the way down the runway, big things are coming.
Yeah. Overall, a pretty awesome competition. Nina Kennedy from Australia ends up with the bronze medal, and so I saw a bunch of Australian fans really pumped for her after that. So women's pole vault, and Katerina Stefanidi was right there. It jumped the season's best, but ends up finishing fifth. So it's always good when like the best in the world just go head to head, and like you get to see them, and they turn out on the biggest stage.
So of course we should maybe knock out a few more semifinals before we get into the most exciting final 15 minutes in track and field.
Yeah.
400 hurdles, 3 Americans through.
Especially our boy Trevor Bassett.
We're big Trevor Bassett fans.
Big Rai Benjamin fans over there on that side.
Yeah.
Very
But
big Rai Benjamin fans.
and it's just I don't know, like there's just an anticipation that's building and building with this event, because it's like you have the big three and you know what's coming, and it's just sort of like, can we just get to the main event
Carson's
already?
confident, huh?
Karsten.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Karsten looks so confident. He looks comfortable. Allison looked so comfortable. Allison ran an amazing race. And I just want to kind of touch on watching these Americans get through, 3 of them. We're standing there with Anna Crockwell, because she is here. She's enjoying the meet on the other end.
I
and
respect
Is a
that
part of the
so
boot
much.
crew.
She,
Oh, she's in the boot crew.
she is
Yeah.
a part of the
I
boot
hate that.
crew. If there's any other athletes out there, please stop joining our crew. Very as cute as it is, I
It's
don't want
closed.
us. We're closing the crew off, so stop it. But she is here. She's enjoying. She's here on behalf of Nike, and so she gets to enjoy the meet and watch it. But the energy that we had watching these guys just make it through, and then watching Khalifa get into that
Yeah.
final, so exciting, and it was awesome to see Anna, just other athletes just really thoroughly enjoying the race and cheering on other Team USA athletes.
You know what? I have so much respect for athletes who obviously wanted to be here competing. Jasmine, you're one of them who then can turn around and say, like, no, I'm here for Team USA and I'm going to support my friends. I'm going to support my competitors. I think of it as almost in college football when, you know, after you lose your conference, then you're still rooting for those who are also in the Big Ten, because if they do well, that's like a reflection of you. And Mac, cue up the scene from the Mighty Ducks when like all of the athletes are, you know, after playing some roller hockey, they're all in the fence on the outside looking in, and as Team USA gets on the bus, they're just like, go get them, Team USA. And that's how I feel seeing all the athletes who are here cheering on those competing.
It's awesome. I think it just speaks to how much we truly love the sport at the end of the day. Like, we're truly fans of it. We enjoy watching others do well, and when you're confident in what you can do and you know what you can do, it makes it a lot easier to get out there and just enjoy the others.
You want to touch on the men's 1500 meter semifinal?
Yeah, I don't. Who drew up these heats? I mean, whoever drew up the heats was in heat 2, I think.
Yeah. If we look at just how it worked out, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, but we expected that there would be a change, and there wasn't. The first heat featured the 3 Olympic medalists, the world indoor champion. Who else was in that? I mean, Ollie Horhood run 3:47 for the mile. And you have to pick five guys to advance?
Well, this is the first thing that, you know, so the heats were a little lopsided, I think. I was not the only one who was thinking the fact that, like, heat 1 was the heat of death in this situation. But then to go first, because now the better heat only got 5 qualifiers in.
Yeah. It would have been a totally different race, you think, if had they gone second?
You know, yeah, I think it would have been a lot faster. You know, it's not like they ran slow. What was the winning time?
3:36.
3:36. So, I mean, for some of these guys, that's slow. But it's honest enough. And then Heat 2 knows exactly what they need to do. So, Stewie McSwain, you know, being the bold runner that he is, just immediately was like, all right, I'll go run a 2:51 1200 and just, like, force everyone in. And it's a big advantage, and we saw that play out in Josh Thompson. You know, he knew exactly what was happening, what he needed. He knew once they started running fast, he just needed to beat 5 guys, get that last time in. And so we do have one American in the final, and Josh. And I said after USA's, or after the prelims at USA's, I said, Josh Thompson is not the guy you want to be the last one in the final. Like, the last man that you want in the final is someone who got lucky, and it won't be a factor in the final. And look, I'm not saying Josh is like going to cause some crazy upset, but he can close. And yeah, exactly.
He was the
So he's
last
the
guy
last
in the
guy
final.
in the final US.
Now.
Can they hear you? Okay, so Mac is saying that it's like incredible that the last guy into the final at USA is now the last guy into the final and the only American in the final. So we're going to be rooting for Josh big time.
Funniest thing he said was, as he's coming off the track, he turns to us and he just goes,
We were in a good spot
he's
today.
like, I'm never going back to the steeple.
Yeah, no, he said, I don't want to go back to the steeple. I mean, Josh was like very close to having his career more or less over because he was steepling and it just wasn't clicking at all. And then he moved to the 1500 and he found his spot. But Josh Kerr looks confident, huh?
Man, he's gonna be dangerous, I think, and like he's just feeding off he's getting more and more confident each round. this time around, like even like towards the end, you could see his Brooks Beast teammates up in the stands, and they were cheering for him, and they were trying to wave him down, and still kind of he gave him a quick thumbs up or fist bump, but just stone faced kept going, and so this is looking like Josh Kerr 2021.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Josh doesn't race that often,
Mm-hmm.
and so sometimes it can be difficult to deduct what sort of fitness he's in.
Right, and then you see the race that happens at the British Championships where he ends up finishing third and just barely makes the team. That leads you to have these questions in your head like, is he there? And then it's like he does this, he's doing this
Exactly, and he looks really, really strong doing it. And he was. I would say when he, walked away last year with a bronze medal from the Olympics, he was not as happy as you would think.
No.
A first-time medalist would be, because he wants to win. He's not here to get another bronze. Like, I think if he finishes second in a couple days, he'll probably be upset. Like, he wants to win, and it's 2 rounds. Jakob's looking around, just walking it in. But
Jakob was turning his head a lot in the final 100 while everyone is trying to scramble to, they're coming through 4 wide, 5 wide, whatever it was. And he's just looking around. Like, I thought for a second we were going to be in for a big shock that someone like him maybe would have made a mistake here or there. But he gets through safe. So does Timothy Chariot. Ignacio Fontes, who is one of 3 Spaniards in the final.
I wrote about how good Spain's middle distance. Look, we were talking today to the Coffee Club boys, and they said if you have enough takes, people will only remember the ones that you got right. And I wrote a thing earlier this year about how good Spanish middle distance running is, and that they would have maybe the best DMR out there in the world. And now I feel really good about having said that. 3 guys. We saw Mario Garcia Romo.
What did he say?
He walked by. He was walking into the tunnel, and he knows that I'm a fan.
More than a fan, you love the guy.
Yeah, we talk more about our Spanish roots later. But so Mario's like, how about those tacticians? How about the tacticians there, like, still one of the best tacticians, huh? And I chirped back. I was like, we'll see in the final. We'll see in the final. But looked great. We were sitting with the Spanish media and national team for the 1500, and they were going wild. And
I see someone in the chat did call Heat 1. Heat 1 was cursed, and it was because there were a couple big surprises there. I mean, Chuck PT doesn't make it through. Johnny Gregoric doesn't make it through. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yep.
Samuel Tefera doesn't make it through. Ollie Hoare doesn't make it through.
Tefera really has done so much better indoors than outdoors. He's just never really had a click outdoors, huh?
No, yeah, it's weird. There's certain people who are like that sometimes, but. Yeah, I mean, it's upsetting. We sat down with the Coffee Club boys, and the plan was also for Ollie to come and join us after the final. But,
that was tough, yeah.
It's a tough pill to swallow, and so hopefully, this only leads to just more fire under him for the future, because, when we spoke with Morgan and Jordy, it was like, he's had everything go right every single time so far.
Did we jinx it?
I don't know if we jinxed it, but sort of like, you sometimes do get knocked down, and this could be one of those moments for him.
You had said that you were into the 10K, Caitlin.
Yes.
How do we feel about the 1500? Do we have it?
Oh,
do we stand for the 15?
I love the 1500 so much, and
would you ever run one?
Am I allowed to curse?
I think just by asking, we know what your answer is.
I heard the and she paused, so I think we got our answer there.
Yeah.
I would never, anything over 401 meters, I'm not touching it.
She's better than me.
But I like the 15 because every time I watch it, at least now, because I feel like when I first was like getting in the track, there was always like spread out, but now it's the sitting kick method, and with that there's always
it's like the scientific method. You have an hypothesis.
It literally is. Everyone is just like relaxing, and then everyone's like, oh snap, it's the last 150, let's all try to get to the line together. And it's just like a pack of dudes, like, because I think it was Heat 1, it was, where the majority of the people in that heat ran like a 3:37.
Yeah.
How does something like that happen? Like, I've personally never seen anything like that happen. It's usually always spread out or like different seconds, but everyone except the guy who got first ran 3:37.
Yeah, I
Except
mean,
the guy who got first, whoever that guy is.
Well, he ran at 3:36.92 or something.
it's just all these guys can run, 5 seconds faster, and it's just like, how fast can you close the last 200 meters? And at that point, when everyone's already next to each other, it's like one guy can close in 25.1 and another guy can close in 25.2. It's like no one's an outlier is closing in 23. So it's kind of the only option is to finish next to each other and on top of each other. And actually, I mean, Johnny had the ability, he was feeling good enough and had the legs, but he just was boxing on the inside. And that's what kind of happens is the guys up front who already have the position and they know that they're the auto qualifiers might not even be running hard through the line at that point, and then those guys behind them who are all fighting for that 4, 5, 6, 7 spots are just running into each other because there's no room. So
I think that's the most interesting thing about the 1500 and kind of even the 800, the fact that you guys can get boxed into situations and things being tactical. You guys can get away with a slower heat, whereas in the sprints, you really don't get to see that. It may be like a little bit slower, like, oh, that wasn't really as fast as they can go, but those times are still pretty darn fast.
Yeah.
Where you, like you said, like they can be running 5 seconds faster.
Yeah.
And I think that's always just so mind-blowing to me.
It's funny. Chris walked in on me this morning drinking my coffee, rewatching the 1500 heats. And then right before we were live recording this podcast, I was watching the 1500s from today. And you were like, why are you watching this? We were at the stadium. But every time you watch it, you'll see different things. And you'll watch different people. And the tactics of it is what makes it exciting. But
So,
yeah,
you were saying how like these guys could easily run 5 seconds faster.
maybe not easily, but they.
But like, do they still feel the same like
Yeah.
lactic acid? Like that's so weird though.
It's-
Like knowing that you could step on the track and run like 5 seconds faster easily, but like it's still gonna
She's
hurt
asking the
just
John
as
Anderson
bad.
question.
Yeah.
It's like, if you know you can run faster, why don't you just do it?
It's a different sort of like lactic acid. When you're running an honest 1500, you're just the entire time you're thinking, I'm sprinting, but I'm not that tired. Like, it's fast. This feels really fast, but I can keep going. Whereas in these tactical races, you're kind of you are jogging and you're looking around. You're like, when are we gonna go? Should we go soon? Should we go? And then all of a sudden, it happens. Like the switch flips so immediately in which it's like, all right, we're racing. We have a 600, all out 600 right now. And my mind would always go to practice because that would be the only time that you'd ever, you'd think about the lap and a half that you do in practice. And then it's just, you go from feeling amazing to being 50 meters left, and it's like the most painful thing in the world. Whereas when it's fast, you have a little bit more time to think. And so, I mean, the adrenaline rush of a tactical race is really something that I still miss today. That's the only thing I miss.
You're strange.
All right, we'll save some for the final here. We've been going long on the
Yeah.
1500.
So the thing I love most about
Big
Oh,
1500
God.
guy over there.
I will acknowledge one of the
Watch,
comments
like,
that we
half
just
our
got
viewers
on
get off
YouTube.
this.
No, actually, someone on YouTube did say Josh Thompson basically steepled today over that runner that fell.
that is true.
So,
Yeah.
I want to move to the women's 100 next because I want to end on a patriotic note.
All right.
So women's 100, we did the vibe check for the stadium earlier, but to be there for the women's 100 today, were you among the Jamaican fans? What was that like?
So I wasn't among the Jamaican fans. I was actually in the USA section. So a lot of Americans. TT Terry was there with some of her crew. But not too far over was the Jamaican fans. And when I tell you, it was literally just a sea of green, black, gold.
Literally.
It was nuts. I mean, they were going absolutely stupid with their blowhorns and with their flags. And I know it's supposed to be America hates Jamaica, but I absolutely admire the way that they show up like for their girls
Everywhere.
And how much
Everywhere.
they literally like the love that they gave after the women walked off the track and like came to get autographs and pictures was just something so special, and not something that I see replicated too much with the USA fans.
We got to get you guys out in front of the stadium talking to some of the Jamaican fans because I'm curious: are they American or do they live in America and they decided to come to Eugene, or the Jamaicans traveling from Jamaica to Eugene, because that seems like a brutal flight.
Well, the one that I talked to today, I didn't ask him that specifically, but he was talking like he's going back to Jamaica after this, and he's like,
Jamaica Queen.
he's actually going back to New York. But he's literally talking about like how it's gonna be a party at all times. Like he's literally gonna get on.
That's probably why he's going
social.
back. That's probably why he's going back.
He's gonna get on all socials and literally message people like, "Yo, like, where's the next party? Like, we are lit right now." And it was also special talking to him because when I got that interview with him, he was talking about how much this sweep like really meant for the country itself. Because
This is a
like,
fan?
yeah.
Oh.
And he was like, yeah, like this is great, but what you have to understand is that a lot of the girls who dream of like being in track and field that are from our country don't come from very much. So to see all three of these women come out here and literally just essentially dog walk us on our own soil, it was really just an amazing sight. And like I said, it's kind of hard to hate them when that's kind of like where their love and where their passion comes from.
Sharika Jackson was saying that exact thing, silver medalist today. And the reason she said, like, this is so special for my family that I didn't come from much, but now, like, because of running, I'm able to support them and, give opportunity. And so I think that is an element that we often don't necessarily think about, especially in the international scene, how much it means, this opportunity to come. And we probably have a lot of American athletes who have the $1 million contracts and take the $70,000 of prize money for granted. And there's some athletes that come here, maybe don't have a shoe contract at all, and get that money and are able to go back home and help the community. And so those stories are really important.
Yeah. The other story that's just amazing is the mommy rocket. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, just fifth world title in the 100 meters. Like,
Meet record.
the goat emoji apparently changed on everyone's iPhones to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. Like,
The,
on
the
latest
goat has
iOS
has
updates.
some new hair.
Yeah.
New hair, please. I actually put out a tweet and I said, but one thing that I noticed and this is why I said that Shelly was going to win, as soon as I seen the hair changing. She did the same thing in 2019. She had a different hairstyle in the prelims, and then she had a different hairstyle going into the semis and finals, but she also had a different hairstyle going into the 4x1. So I'm kind of curious to see if she's going to do the same thing this year, which I'm pretty sure she will, but she's running the 200.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if it's going to be 4 changes or just 3.
Apparently, there was no women's 100-meter press conference tonight because
You gotta get ready.
they have to get ready. Like, it was kind of like, that is disrespectful. Like, why won't they do a press conference? And it's like, no, it's like, you got to have a little bit of compassion here. Like, she's got to get ready for another race tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's sometimes, the nature of, having this event over the span of 10 days, that you do get into those roadblocks sometimes. But I wanted to hear a little bit more from Shelly-Ann, and hopefully she does give a bit more time, because, like, it is just so great to see just, like, her continue to add on to her legacy. And, like, you also got to give props to Lane Thompson for a lot of doubt starting to settle into people's heads, like, as the season progressed. Where it's like, I don't know, is she gonna be able to pull this off and, like, be even in contention for the medals? Like, she ends up running 10:81, finishes third, and it is crazy because of how many times we see 10:8 now that is just enough to get you a medal. But right behind her, Dina Asher-Smith, who you pointed out, I think, on Twitter in the after the semifinals, is like, she was right there, tied her national record, 10:83, for 4th place.
Yeah. I think 1083 is a new national record. I thought it was 1084 before, but either way, Dina looked in amazing form to literally run the exact same time twice through prelims and through the heats, and then to come out there and unfortunately didn't make the podium, but I think she's showing that she's on her way to a comeback.
To just wrap up the rivalry, the thing that I love, U.S. men's sweep, the Jamaicans sweep the women's, and I'm like watching. Obviously, I'm rooting for the U.S. and I want Aaliyah and Melissa to break it up and get a medal, but then you just see how excited the crowd was and how excited
Yes.
Shelly-Ann was, and I feel like more so than the United States versus Jamaica under that whole umbrella. First and foremost is like this unified vision of just like track fans loving track and excellent performances, and that's like top tier connection that we have. Doesn't matter what flag you're running under. And then after that, it's like, all right, let's go USA.
And I can agree with that because I feel like on Twitter, because I mean, I'm already getting heat right now for the tweet that I made about USA's sweep in the 110-meter hurdles. And I was like, if what happened didn't happen, it would have been a USA sweep. And then the Jamaicans started coming at me like, but if Hansel was there, like, here you go, disrespect. Like, literally getting so much heat from people. And so you would think from those interactions that, like, we would literally be, like, throwing fist fights in the stands. But literally everything was so respectful, so calm, and just an amazing experience between both parties. And so, honestly, I feel like that hostility only comes from the Twitter fingers because in person, I don't see too much.
It's mutual respect.
The thing is, it's definitely a mutual respect between the Jamaicans and the Americans. We cheer each other on, but again, you're competitors on the track, right? And just like in the NFL, you have people that are cheering on one team and another cheering on another. You're riding hard for your team, but we just love track and field. We love to see great performances, and how can you not love to see these women putting on great times and performances?
Kudos to Aaliyah Hobbs for, first world championship final. Ends up finishing sixth in 1092, but just given how she has overcome injuries over the last couple of years and the drama of last year to get to this point, it is a big jumping off point that I think, like, hopefully, she takes a lot of lessons. And then Melissa Jefferson, although she was last in the final.
Long season.
Love Melissa. This is a Melissa fan club.
Apparently was, like, super thrilled and pumped, like, coming through the mix one, just about the overall experience. And she just signed a pro contract with Nike. And so, there's lots to look forward to with the U.S. also, like, in the sprints. And it's not... It is now when you guys were just talking and discussing about how Jamaica embraces the sport, like, there is so much of a big discussion here in the States. We got to grow the sport. And, like, we've taken it up on, like, growing this in the United States is, like, a big thing, like, that would hopefully benefit, a lot more people. But in Jamaica, there's less so of that. It feels to me like there's less of, like, let's grow the sport. They're like, nah, we're good.
They're
being,
good,
like,
That is their sport.
Thing.
That's
And
one
it's
of the
already
top
their
sports.
sport. And so, no, it's just a really cool sort of observation.
Quick, Aaliyah, I saw in the semis after she finished that she kind of, like, held her hamstring really subtly, and then I think she was taped up in the final. But luckily, made it through. Hopefully all good to go for the relay. But something that was really cool that we heard, I don't know if you guys saw it, that she had an extra little bib number on the side. It was a QR code that she had underneath her hip number.
Yeah. And if you scan the QR code, it takes you to a YouTube series that World Athletics, like, produced on helping share Aaliyah Hobbs' story.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Right.
There's a
Krauser
few other
has
athletes
one.
out there that have QR codes that they're
I
wearing.
didn't even see. Well, she was moving too fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually really cool. I also just kind of want to point out how young Team USA's sprinters are. It's definitely a young group, and so, again, always excited to see how they grow. It's a very young group. They're definitely going to grow. Seeing Aaliyah, Melissa, even taking it down to Tiana Daniels, Carrie, all a super young group. So they're all going to develop, and I think eventually we will definitely be seeing them on that podium soon.
And to go off of that, this will be the Jamaican hate clip that I get for the day, I guess.
Oh,
Look
look
into the
into the camera.
Oh my
Talk
gosh.
about it.
Here we go. I feel as though since our girls are so young right now and are doing so many amazing things that I feel as though in a few years' time they will be able to rival
Say it. We're sweeping them in a few
we
years.
are gonna sweep them in a few years. I'm not giving no specific years, so don't come at me.
Just
but
a few.
Just a few.
If it's not next year, wait a few more.
Wait a few more. It's gonna come because our girls are absolutely kicking butt, and they got a lot of promise. So
I love that you do these because then, like, we get a couple of views.
I'm literally gonna get canceled. My Twitter's gonna get deleted.
Yeah. Your visa one day when you're trying to get in Jamaica. is
They're
gonna-
not gonna let me in.
All loud, big X across the face.
Hey guys, I want to talk about the men's shot put. Is that okay?
Oh my gosh.
I'll
let's
allow
everyone-
it.
Please talk about it. I've been waiting on this moment.
So, first off, like, first couple of throws were just bombs right away.
Yeah. Well,
literally.
Josh, I'm sorry.
Tunde.
Awotunde
I'll call him
told
Tunde for short.
so Atunde.
Tunde.
Tunde, just Tunde.
Josh. So for those who maybe aren't familiar, we do with the lapcount.com, we have a segment called the Victory Lap. And what that is we do newsletter once a week, which is an interview with an elite athlete, oftentimes an unsponsored elite athlete. And, for a small fee of a subscription, people are able to get access to these interviews. But then all of the money goes to the athletes whose interviews we're sharing and whose story. And the idea is just it's a fun way to learn more about athletes and support oftentimes unsponsored athletes. Jasmine, that's kind of how you ended up on this couch.
Yeah.
Was
Literally.
that initial conversation you had with Mac. So Mac is the one who has all these conversations with the athletes, and he spoke to Josh. And
Last week.
yeah, last week I actually sent him the money this morning. And is that illegal in some ways? Or like
No.
some okay, we're
No,
allowed to
no, you're
have
good.
favorites and pay athletes. And so Josh basically called exactly what he wanted to do. He says, I normally do like last throw, best throw, but I need to start coming out a little hotter. And immediately opens up with a huge personal best and doesn't stop there. Ends up following it up, but he
PR'd twice.
He-
Three
three
times
times.
total.
3 times.
But Josh immediately, I think at the end of the first round, was in medal contention
Mm-hmm.
and just immediately put pressure on everyone else and kind of set the tone.
When you see Team USA with with throws over 22 meters, and it's like the two guys who have been on the podium for the last half a decade, like that is a lot of pressure. But in the conversations that took place afterwards, like you could tell that there was the early part of the competition is everyone getting really psyched and jacked up for Tunde. Then there's a turning point where it's like, no, we're in a shootout between Kovacs and Krauser, and we're gonna have Joe on the show tomorrow because there's moments where you see Kovacs throw and it's a monster throw. Apparently, like someone tweeted at me, it was like they must have shown it on the broadcast, so like his warm up throws, but that's like signature Joe were going crazy. And so I was like, we might be in for something really special today. And so Joe is doing Joe. When Joe does Joe, Krauser turns his back and
He
doesn't
didn't watch the
watch.
throw, which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting.
And then when Krauser throws, Joe is doing like these blowout sprints. And it was fascinating because like Joe has told me in the past, because I'm writing a book with him about how he once I guess had a call from the Colts a couple of years back, but also that he believes that his speed out of the blocks would be just as fast as some of the elite sprinters. And I was like, okay, Joe.
How many meters away? Like 2 meters?
Yeah, like the first step,
Okay.
basically. He thinks his reaction time is is just as
don't
good.
bring that up yet.
We'll get to
I
reaction
actually
times
wouldn't
later.
be surprised though.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
So you're just seeing him just run up and down, and I'm like, and he's got a hoodie on. I'm like, this is getting intense.
He wears sweatpants.
He's
Does
wearing-
he wear- those team issued sweatpants.
I don't know
he
what
was
it
wearing?
was, but it was like this. There was so much drama that was unfolding, and at the same time, then you have to hit pause because then there's other events happening, and it's and Ryan Krauser joked about this. Is like, oh, that's just the life of a shot putter. We get to watch everything because our
seats.
our competition gets interrupted by everyone else, but. Krauser had to respond to Joe twice in this competition, and had to respond to Josh even once, and so there was something a little bit different about Ryan Krauser tonight. That was, I thought he was playing up the crowd a bit more than we usually see.
There's a lot of crowd
Yeah.
play. I mean,
Yes.
Oregon guy,
Yeah,
and the fans here love him. This is where he's done a lot of amazing things, and finally he gets that world championship. The one
that's
thing
what's
that was
been
missing.
Yep, and he finally gets it. It was cool. I mean, I think when the way he commanded sort of the Hayward faithful was powerful to watch, but then at the same time the shared joy that they had afterwards, because he said that and Joe also said that him and Ryan have had these discussions about U.S. sweeping the medals at a championship at any point. Tom Walsh has been the guy that's shared the podium with them since the 2016 Olympics, and you're looking for that third guy.
We found him.
And it is looking like it's Josh, because he's that PR is no joke today. What he did, and we asked him sort of like in the press conference, like there's all these questions, and I raised my hand at the end, and I just go
amateur hour over here. I had my amateur hour.
I wish
in the press conference.
I haven't tweeted it yet because so I can't ask Mac to cue it up, but I just asked Josh. I was like, so what got into you today? Like,
you have very legitimate news organizations asking real questions.
It was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. What got into you today? And he laughed because it was a good question. And he was like, I don't know. It was like there was there was just everything felt right. He grew up watching, Krauser and Kovacs on YouTube, and he's taken a lot of lessons from that. Part of me wants Mac to switch the camera over to this shot and for him to take that seat and share this mic with Caitlin really quick, because I think Mac could tell it a little bit better as to just like what he did this interview with Josh last week about just he doesn't have the most likely story. So Mac, can you share, I guess, with the listeners a little bit about Josh's story, because it's one of the best ones of this championship so far. Everyone, welcome Mac Fleet.
Yeah, I guess I'm.
The guy behind the
One-time
camera.
NCAA champion, Mac Fleet.
Oh my
It was
gosh,
two.
Kyle.
We talk about this because I do this frequently with people on purpose. I just purposely undercut them so they have to whatever.
Get their personal best wrong by 1 second.
Yes.
1 second. Oh my.
The distance runners.
But yeah, back to Josh Owatunde. He had the opportunity to. He may have actually competed for Nigeria. That's where he's originally from. Did he actually? No,
Yeah.
but he missed the 2016 team. Didn't compete for them, and that allowed him to sort of like
Switch way easier.
switch to the U.S. Federation. And I kind of asked him like, why? Like, you kind of have like an easy out, an easy reason to, or an easy path rather, to make all of these, Olympic teams or world champs teams. And he was like, no, I want to be good. I want to be really good. And the best throws country in the world is the U.S. So if I can't compete with them where I live, like where I'm growing up, like why would I do anything else? So like he chose to take the harder path to make teams. And you saw that today. Like he had 3 massive PBs in the biggest meet of his life. He placed 5th at the indoor world championships, and that was like by far his best, performance ever. Just barely missed the Tokyo team
Was
last
he fifth
year.
there?
Yes,
at the
he was
trials?
fifth.
At
He
the
was fifth
trials, yeah.
trials.
But yeah, he's like proving to be extremely consistent now. But yeah, am I going to keep going about his whole injury and everything? Because
Yeah.
I can keep going forever on
Yeah,
this.
go.
People need to sign up for the victory lap. I'd say.
Yeah, people actually need to sign up for the victory lap because
I
we
dropped the
talked-
link in the
Kinda cut
YouTube
it, let him
chat.
sign
Yeah.
up,
We're always like we're always like a few weeks ahead of the story. I feel like whenever athletes talk to you, Mac, they like break out immediately.
So
but-
tomorrow, if Josh comes over, we're having him lift you the same way that Raven lifted Kyle.
Yeah, well, and we'll actually we'll do it live. We'll see how far he can throw me. But yeah, Josh actually got hurt right at the beginning of the outdoor season this year, and his first outdoor competition, I believe, was USA's. I don't know if you know, but I think that's right. And he was super rusty. He did a couple full practice throws the day before, was a little uncomfortable, but got through USA's, to make the team, and ends up with a bronze medal at the World Championships. I guess that just shows how deep the U.S. is in men's shot put.
He had one competition early April.
Okay.
And
And
then
then that's when he got
USA's.
hurt. He got a massage, and then he got hurt at practice the next day.
So the other thing just to know about Josh is he's the man.
Yeah.
So something about the shot put just gravitates great personalities.
I love it. And we'll get to showcase some of that tomorrow on CITIUS MAG Live.
Can we talk about
Matt,
really quick the
Thanks for
shot
joining
put?
us, Mac Fleek.
Thanks, Mac. Sorry.
Get back behind the camera.
Go back. See ya. I just want to kind of briefly touch on why this sweep was also so amazing, because this is the first time that the men's shot putters have ever swept the shot put. And the last time that anything was swept in the shot put was in the 1960 Rome Olympics.
Really? Wow.
So it's been a long time coming since the men have done something this spectacular.
No, I'm riding the high as being a big throws guy. Like I said before, like we got on the boat early, and we welcome everyone else to join us as on the big throws guys bandwagon.
Do we get into the most controversial aspect of the evening? Something that, before we get into the good side and finishing off the real patriotic stuff, you know, the 110 hurdles started with some controversy.
Yeah, well, the first one was Hansel Parchment gets injured very weirdly.
Warming up.
Warming up, like, just goes over hurdle and can't, like,
The Olympic champ.
out just like that. And this is just a day after Daniel Roberts got eliminated. So that's already 2 heavy hitters out.
So right then and there, and this is not how you want to do it, but it's like you see that happen. It's like, oh, wow, the U.S. might sweep.
Yep, that was the first thought that comes across your head. And then the next time around, they get in the blocks, and then it's called for a false start. And the reaction time, do you have it in front of you?
I think it was .0999.
Which is 1/1000th of a second
Yes.
under the legal limit set by World Athletics. Do you want to kind of go about explaining a little bit about like the false start
I
rule?
think Caitlin,
Caitlin,
do you have a good understanding of it?
Or Jasmine,
Essentially, you false start and you're done. It used to be, I think you had, like, you would get a warning card if you false started one time, and then all that other stuff. But then when I got a chance to talk to RG3, he said that one of the reasons why they ended up changing the rule to one and done was because people would purposely false start to scare the competition and then have people sit in the blocks and then screw up everybody mentally, which is why they changed it. However, I think that's freaking stupid, because then when you have situations like Devon, especially if you watch the video, didn't move an inch, flinch, or do anything. He was just really damn fast. We have situations like these that come up that are extremely unfortunate.
The idea is that the blocks, they have sensors on them, and you know they don't want athletes anticipating the gun, right? Like that's the idea behind it. And so we created this arbitrary number that just happened to be such a perfectly even number that will dictate whether or not you were anticipating the gun rather than reacting to it.
But, like, have we not learned from last year's Olympic trials, USA's, and the Olympics too, because there was a little action going on there, that, like, those sensors are, like, crazy. Like, sometimes technology is not always great. Like, when you've literally got, like, 4 or 5 false starts in one heat because of some arbitrary number that doesn't make a single lick of sense, then how do you justify what happened with Devon today?
Well, then the other thing is in the semifinals, his reaction time was 1/1000th slow enough that it was allowable. And so maybe the best athlete in the sport, like one of the best, the one guy who can do the NFL and be an Olympic finalist, you know, maybe that he just has really good reaction time.
That's the spin zone that I'm seeing everywhere. It was like, especially like just now, I just got a tweet where someone's like, the way if you translate what Devon says in this interview, Mac, if you can kind of cue up the interview of that Devon did within the mix zone that I tweeted earlier, but he says like essentially like Devon just kicked science's ass. It's a reaction time that people think wasn't possible, and he just destroyed that idea.
The fact that he did it twice,
And,
though, you know,
but I think it was Steve Magus, I think, who pointed out that there's been studies done by World Athletics that says like humans can go up to like 0.8, I think it was, or some 0.08 for reaction time, and like he could be right there.
Yeah.
It's all right. So we've got the interview. Devon Allen stopped in the mix zone for a little bit, and everyone huddled up around him. One interview, and then he was kind of done. And so this is just a clip. You can watch the full thing on YouTube. But this is Devon addressing when he was told that he was going to be disqualified. We're gonna pull up the audio on it. Give me 1 sec.
Shout out to Susan in the
I
background
was just
of
about
every
to say
major.
that. Shout out to Susan.
In the background of every major interview that any U.S. athlete has done in the last many years, you got Susan in the background.
Holding it down.
Initially, my first reaction was maybe that Grant next to me was still going in the set because it was a quick gun, and he goes in the set a little bit later. So I thought they were just gonna be like, hey,
So how did
go into set when we say set. And so when I was flagged, I was very surprised, which is also part of the frustration because I know for a fact I didn't react until I heard the gun, and to be 1/1000th of too quick, which I know I'm quick, but kind of sucks. Initially, my
So right there at the end, he says, "I know I'm quick, but that kind of sucks."
Punished for being too good.
Yeah.
So just the overall take is, and this is not a hot take, this is universal. This is bad for the sport. You have the hometown kid, like the Duck, the Oregon Duck, whose name has transcended beyond just the sport because now he's an NFL guy. He's a great personality, has a very emotional story in having just a major loss in his life just a few weeks ago, and the entire crowd is behind him. And now it's like we are shooting ourselves in the foot by not letting a star like him compete. And it was us getting in our own way. And we had talked about the 100 today. This morning we woke up and we're like, I wonder if the sweep of the 100 has transcended beyond the little bubble of our sport. And ultimately we kind of said, like, not that much. There wasn't that much chatter outside of the track world about this momentous moment. But you know what I've seen now a lot of everywhere is that Devon Allen, the guy who's going to play for the Eagles, false started. And that's now the story that will be told about the World Championships.
Yeah, I was literally just about to try and pull up like Google Trends and see charts and see like how numbers and analytics were spiking for search.
You're going to try to pull that up right now.
Yeah, I was, but then my internet dropped, so I can't do it live in the moment. I would have been able to do it pretty quick, but no, it's you basically nailed it there. Where it's like this is what people are going to be talking about. Like it's going to be discussed on the Pat McAfee show and like some of these other big issues that this guy got disqualified for being too good. And now, if we kind of want to move into discussing about the race a little bit, part of me does feel for Grant Holloway in this sense because he defends his title. This is a little bit of redemption from him taking silver at the Olympics last summer. And he's like the comment section on our Instagram post, from this race, it's just sort of like free Devon and like they should have run it back and all this stuff. And it's like, well, Grant's moment got soiled a little bit here.
I don't think anyone's taken anything away from Grant.
No,
the defending champ, he's been running unbelievable all year. He was, look, Daniel Roberts beat him at USA's and Parchment beat him at the Olympics, but I don't know what the odds were on it. Holloway was the favorite.
Yeah, he was definitely the favorite. And even like Devon said that in one of the rounds, like he'd hurt his hamstring a bit. And so like seeing Devon run would have been great. The sweep would have been possible. But at the end of the day, like Grant has been on a tear ever since losing that this was his to lose. And he said it felt like practice because there was no one on either side of him. He just had to focus on the 10 hurdles around him. Trey Cunningham was on the outside, ends up taking silver, but was running blind the entire time because like the lanes next to him were also empty. That he was like, I have no idea what's going on the rest of the race, and so he was a little, upset about taking silver, but that's because he's a competitor. And
I did appreciate that he was upset about he wasn't upset, but he's
like, I'm a competitor. Like it's not the one I wanted.
Yeah, that's pretty cool for a kid who just got out of college to say that. So we loved the moment afterwards though, in which Trey was hanging out. He got the flag, took some pictures, and Grant was going for his victory lap, and he was like, Trey. Trey, go we gotta go. And, like Trey was like, oh, okay, and like scattered over and was like, we'll go together.
Yeah, well, it's also, and then Trey told us later on about that part. It was sort of he wrote a piece or something like that online earlier in the year. It was like you gotta soak in the victory lap, and he's like you'd only get that so many times, and so He's like, this is my first one. So he's like, I was taking my time with it. And then they asked him, like, do you want to finish it off? He's like, yeah, I want to finish it off. This is my first one. So he's like, maybe next time, like, I'll stop because the 400 is a long way for me. But, yeah. And then, you got to give some props to the guy from Spain who ended up taking bronze.
Yeah, so this was my my moment in the press conference. So no one had really asked him a question.
He
But
felt bad. He was like,
I felt not that I felt bad, but I watched him because we were sitting with the Spanish,
the Spanish Armada, you can call him that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he, afterwards they were all crying and celebrating like crazy. It was a really big deal. I think at the start of the championships, he did not expect to come away with a medal, and so
They said getting to the final would have been a big
would have been a really big deal. And so, for him to walk away with the bronze was incredible. And I asked him, I asked one of the people over at the press conference, like, does he speak any English? And they're like, yeah, he can speak a little English. I was like, okay, cool, because I'm interested to hear more. So I asked him, I was like, you ran a personal best last year in the Olympic final, and then in the World Championships, you just ran another personal best. Do you have the clutch gene?
So as he's saying this question in the press conference, he's in the back and I'm sitting in the front row, and I'm like, oh, nice, very nice, Kyle. You asked the guy a question, and then I was like, all right, this question's off to a good start. Like Kyle's first World Championship press conference, and then at the end when he goes, do you have the clutch gene? And I was like, he's not gonna get.
Yeah,
this
he
one.
might speak a little English.
That one, that's
enough.
gonna get lost in translation. And then no, he actually gave like a pretty solid answer. He said he understood the question in English.
And he said a little something in English, and
he was like, I'm going to answer in Spanish because that's what I'm most comfortable with. And then he said the answer. And when he said the answer, like he responded in Spanish. It was nice. Then I stopped recording because I understood what he said. I'm fluent in Spanish. Then Kyle also was like nodding his head. And so we both understood Spanish in the press conference. And then we might have been the only people who understood what he said.
I mean, so, family is Spanish and whatnot. So, definitely have some roots but I also took Spanish in school for 8 years. I can't speak it very well, but apparently I could understand it decently well because I was nodding my head. I think he just spoke very clearly and slowly for the American audience. But, I think you're going to get your Spanish up and to be able to communicate with some of the Spanish athletes by
Budapest.
Yeah.
Caitlin, I want your thoughts on that men's 110-meter hurdle final.
So when I was watching it, obviously I want the champ to defend his title. So I'm like, oh my God, like, let's go Grant. I guess now we're like cool now because he's like coming over to the house to do the show with us.
You're cool, like you and him?
Well,
Or-
okay,
Well, they did an Out of the Blocks
he saw
podcast
my
together.
tweet about Michael saying that I noticed that he was in the gym and then he sent it to me with like a laughing emoji and I was like, oh shit, people see what I'm doing. But yeah, no, I was just like, oh my God, like completely rooting for this kid. And it was awesome because Jasmine obviously rooting for Devon because pretty much her family. And it's like, I'm like, let's go Grant. She's like, let's go Devon. I'm like, let's go Trey. We're just like looking at each other like, oh snap, let's go. And I was just so heartbroken to see what happened to Devon. Especially like, well, Jasmine's like my family now too, and even though I'm not super close with Devon and his family, and I don't know them like that, it just hurts to see that like Jasmine was so sad because of what was going on. And like literally had my friend G text me. He plays football. He doesn't care too much about track, and he's like, yo, like, what do you think of the Devon Allen situation? And I'm like, oh snap, like you literally have my friends texting me who like could care less about track to like come talk about this. So overall, like I'm really pleased with how Grant and Trey ran. Like it was an amazing race, but I think it would have been even better if we actually had Devon in it. And if if Hansel didn't like hurt himself like during the warm up, I think that would have been such an amazing experience.
Yeah, when Trey, I said to him, sort of, it was like, so what did you make, like, once you finally got the race finally went off? He's like, man, I've been in a lot of track meets, I've been in a lot of track races, but that was the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And then I said to him, so how do you keep your cool? Like, because if you see the Olympic champion go down, you see the guy who ran the third fastest time, like, get disqualified, or you just sitting there and be like, all right, what's gonna happen to me next?
A lightning bolt.
Who's next?
And it was just so bizarre. Jasmine, how did you process the whole thing? You're still processing.
You're not ready yet.
That was tough.
Yeah.
That was extremely tough. I'm gonna try not to cry.
Oh. Oh. We can give Jasmine a moment on this one.
You don't have to do this, Jasmine, if you don't want.
No, it's fine. Strange race because there was only 5 guys in it. It's supposed to be 8 guys.
Yeah.
A guy got DQ'd. One of the guys missing because he's hurt. Devon DQ and then another DQ in the race. There's only 5 guys running. My opinion on Devon's false start. I think any false start in general should be a negative. We're supposed to react, right? So happy for Grant. Super happy for Trey. I do wish we could have swept. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I mean it's tough. I think a lot of people are still, processing it. Like I just checked my phone and it's like there's still so much buzz about it. People are going back and forth about it. People won't be done talking about this race for a while.
Yeah, I think the athletes deserve the benefit of the doubt more often than not. And then just the ability not to run under protest, I think.
That's the
know.
that's the part that needs to be revised for sure.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of highs in the sport, a lot of lows, and hopefully we see Devon come back more, and hopefully that U.S. team gets a sweep next year.
One fun thing that did come up in the press conference, I forget who it might have been that asked, but it was actually Robert Johnson from Let's Run. He was like, hey, like I was just talking to Devon's agent like in the hallway, and he was saying, I got to get this guy another race. Like that's the only way we kind of shake this one off is just get him back out there. And I don't care, like if we find a way to do this in the middle of Hayward Field where it's just, him and Grant, like would he run it back? And then Grant said, let's run it back. And so, like, you could tell, I mean, and it's the same exact way that yesterday, Fred Curley taking to Twitter to say he wants to race Marcel Jacobs. Like, the American guys don't back down from competition.
These guys are built different. Like, Chris, you and I, we see a top guy go down and we're like, thank God we don't have to race them.
Yeah.
Not these guys.
Not these guys.
These guys are itching to race the best.
I'm looking for excuses for why I shouldn't have
You get
to
nervous
race.
because too many people are showing up to our group run and you're like,
Yeah, I'm like, Kyle, please tell them that we're going to have coffee and donuts and give them the route, and I will just tell them, like, hey, thanks for coming.
So we're 3 days down. We still have a full week of competition to go.
My brain.
Your brain.
My heart is full, though, because
Yeah.
of how much track and field we have in store for the next week. And so I don't have the schedule in front of me to pull up, like, what the finals are tomorrow, but I know
It's on the internet.
it's another
Somewhere.
it's
It's
another
somewhere out there.
Yeah, it's another early start, 6:15 a.m. women's marathon. This time we're gonna have Caitlin go out there and get some interviews on the marathon course at around 6:30. You didn't get this
Oops.
memo?
You didn't
It was
get
in
it?
your email.
It's the company email.
You want me to embarrass us?
No, we'll be bringing you guys updates from the women's marathon, and then head right back to the track. And then tomorrow's show, I'm gonna say it. Tomorrow's show is gonna be can't miss.
It's gonna be fire.
If these guests come through like they said they're going to, then it's gonna be big. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So tune in, CITIUS MAG live at the World Championships, 1:00 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Many thanks once again to Tracksmith for supporting us for these awesome green sweaters. If you guys want to know which ones they are, shoot us a DM. We'll send you the link, and we'll get you a promo code for it, Worlds, for 20% off anytime over the next week. You only have one more week to use promo code Worlds. And then, in addition to our content, get a moment, listen to Legacy of Speed by Pushkin Industries, Puma, and Tracksmith. It's a lot of fun. I've actually been, to kind of decompress sometimes and relax, I've been listening to it while I get ready for my day.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's been good.
That's why I've been late every morning.
That's why I'm late to everything in the morning.
Makes sense.
Everyone, thanks for joining us. It's a Sunday night, and so if you've tuned in to any of this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're bringing you, this show, our daily show, interviews from the Mix Zone, and so much more. So thanks for joining us.
Good night, track nerds.
We love track and field.
I love track and
Peace
field.
to the Middle East.